Hello there, and welcome to Fixing the Sequel Trilogy, usually a Writer's Room podcast, but today a reaction and review podcast, because we just finished watching episode 1 and 2 of Ahsoka, so we're just going to talk about that for the next half an hour or so, and tell everyone our thoughts and feelings. We're going to start with episode 1. Mello, let's go into it.
Yeah, let's do it, man. So welcome. We're going to be doing this for the next 7 weeks.
7 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, every Wednesday, so look forward to that.
Yeah, definitely look forward to it.
Yeah, please. Wow, Ahsoka.
So you have a lot more thoughts and feelings than I do. I haven't watched all of Rebels. I got halfway through season 3 years ago, then stopped and just gave up. I never really got back into it. It's not really my kind of show. Not big on Clone Wars either. I did, however, very much enjoy these first 2 episodes.
Yep.
General thoughts and feelings, I think, is pretty positive overall.
Nice. Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy overall as well. It is an interesting perspective having seen and loved most of Rebels, especially season 3 and 4, when it gets a bit more mature towards the back end, and then going into this season, knowing that Dave Filoni had basically described it as season 5 of Rebels, so I thought, okay, cool. Look, you left us on a massive cliffhanger years ago, so it'll be really interesting to pick it back up.
Before diving into, I think, plot specifics, it's very interesting for just newcomers to this specific part of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you supposed to do with all that lack of context?
No, exactly. And
it's
I think
very confusing.
Yeah, and I'll get into how they're making up for that a bit more in the first episodes. I think I just want to touch on a bit more of like the thoughts and feelings going in. It's been a roller coaster.
I was very negative because I did not enjoy Mandalorian season 3. Like Book of Boba Fett, I enjoyed, but I know it's bad. Kenobi, again, enjoyed. I know it's bad. It's one of those things I was like, I just can't get excited for Ahsoka, especially hearing like all these different things leading up to it.
Yeah, it's tricky. For me, personally, the last live-action piece of Star Wars content I enjoyed, apart from Andor, because Andor, was season 2 of Mando. So it's been 2 years of really rocky content.
Yeah.
But then, the marketing for this, obviously the show was announced a long time ago.
Yeah, when they had that whole big slate, like MCU-style slate up on the screen at D23. Even before that, I guess.
Was it like, I want to say like 2019, like when they dropped the Rise of Skywalker trailer?
No way, it's that long ago. Like no way. Man. That's a fucking while.
Yeah. Also announced at that time, Lando.
Yeah. Oh, wait, really? Like a movie?
Yeah. No, like the Lando show.
There's a show.
Yeah. The one that Donald Glover and his brother are going to do when they want to.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be cool. Yeah. I forgot about that, but that's really cool.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so look through all the marketing, everything I've seen, and all of the other Star Wars content. It's been a lot of ups and downs. When first things came out, I was really excited. I really started to dip. I started to get worried after Mando season 3. And then it's just the last few weeks in some of the marketing and seeing some of the, because I actually watched trailers.
I saw them pop up and I'm like, what's this trash? Oh, it's Ahsoka. So I'd quickly flip past it because I just wanted to go in blind. I usually do that with a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Things were looking looking a bit higher budget to me. It was looking like a bit less volume, a bit more real sets.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It is real sets. It is practical. Okay, let's start diving into some stuff. Episode 1. My general thoughts on this
Master and Apprentice.
Master and Apprentice. Good title. Man, I don't think Dave Filoni is a good director. I think he's pretty bad. I think he's a very, very talented writer and really understands story and plot in a very, very good way, especially when it relates to Star Wars. But god damn, those scenes, they took so long. I was mad watching it.
Yeah, I was sitting there next to you and I'm there like just along for the ride, and I was like, I'll take this thing as it's like its parts and its total by the end of it. And just there watching Bryce.
I was vibrating.
Very vocal experience.
I was trying to keep it in, but I'm like, oh my god, cut away for fuck's sake. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I think that that first episode really showed his inexperience as a live action director. I think he's a great animated director.
I mean, it seems that way. I've seen all the good episodes of Clone Wars because people have been trying to get me into that show for years now.
Yeah, and I mean, man, like Avatar: Last Airbender.
He's directed episodes of that?
He was one of the key,
members
of that
goddamn,
team.
he can direct animation,
yeah.
But live action is another world, apparently.
It is different. Yeah, look, I didn't mind like some of the slow burn stuff. Like slow burn stuff does get me as it does, I think every audience member really.
Not me.
Yeah,
I'm a fast-paced
No,
kind of
when
guy.
I say get me, I mean like it gets to me.
Yeah.
If it's a bit too slow.
Oh, gotcha.
The allure of Star Wars, I think, is enough to sometimes hold me. But yeah, look, not.
It reminded me of
perfect.
scenes in the Batman the first time I watched it, where you're watching and it's like it's the slow burn and stuff, but it's like, god damn, no one moves this slowly. Like Batman doesn't need to move this slowly. No one does this.
It felt like a lot of directing fundamentals. Where it's like we'll stick with the character while they go. They pick up this
let's
thing,
just
go to that thing.
We're gonna hold. We're not gonna cut. We're not gonna cut. And then some AD sitting off to the side, like, can you fucking cut? Like, no, we're not using this. We all know we're not using this.
And then Dave's like, No, I'm going to use this. Yeah.
And then he made sure it got in.
Yeah.
And it sucked. Anyway.
Yeah. I really love the score in the first episode and the second episode.
Talking about some of the specifics, score is very good. I thought it was very strong. Some of the themes for, is it Balin or Malin?
Balin, yeah.
I think it's his theme was very cool. That came in. All the old themes from Rebels coming through. Those really
motifs.
The really beautiful motifs when hair is on screen. I thought those were very, very good.
Yeah.
I think Ahsoka's got her own theme in this. It was
Yeah. It's the one. It's like, oh, dude, season 7 of Clone Wars' score, or specifically from the last 4 episodes, is fantastic. And like there's the specific character.
And they brought stuff back from that. And there's one moment where they're on the hill and like the little spy droid comes up and it's the exact same notes as Darth Maul in Phantom Menace, and I was just getting chills like, oh
no,
man,
I asked you at the end of the episode, I was like, are you picking up on how much Phantom Menace is actually in that entire episode?
Yeah, it was a fair bit. It was really cool.
Yeah, like they open on, there's some ship, it's New Republic ship, and just like,
it's an
attack. An attack happens.
They kill him.
Like they go onto the ship, and
so that's the first scene, opening scene. Like the first thing we really start with in the show is this New Republic captain on his the Starship
First
Command
time
Center.
we're seeing a big New Republic ship.
Yes, and like their presence in the galaxy and what Dave is trying to get across with his idea of what the New Republic looks like. And I think, as the whole point of this show that we're doing now is fixing the sequel trilogy, and a lot of the things that are talked about in episode 2 especially are things that we've had similar conversations about, and we're like, yes, this is exactly what we've been looking for.
Yeah, it's part of this, like go back and retcon in a way that doesn't delete but fixes the content that was made. It's like what is being made at the moment, if it is good and if it is actually servicing the universe's story, is like what Clone Wars was to the prequels. Yeah, it kind of helps improve that.
Before we get sidetracked too much though, this first scene, they come and land in, and we see this ex-Jedi, now mercenary, with his apprentice. They walk up and they start slicing through these guys, and the first thing that really hits me in the scene is, oh my god, this looks very good.
Yeah, the action's good. They're actually showing this person's been cut by a lightsaber. Mm-hmm. We're going to show that on their body.
You see some like physical damage, but I think beyond that as well, like the costumes, they really stuck to, let's go traditional Rebel costumes with the goofy ass helmets. It works. It looks really good. The landing scene, like all the ships and everything, the CG, the mix of practical and CG, very well done.
Practical alien characters.
And we've got the Mon Calamari dudes in there as well. So all of this, I think, is just immediately, I'm like, okay, at least they've got the visuals right. The visuals look very, very good. Yeah. I think they brought it home pretty good. It instantly kind of just brought me in.
Yeah, cool. So from there, we had an opening crawl.
We did do the opening crawl with like red text and scrolling down, similar to the opening crawl of the films, but different enough for it to really feel like its own thing. Cool. It was like, but I think the more it kind of played out, the more I felt it worked for me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was good. I'm just trying to think back now, and people are going to kill me for this. I think like the Siege of Mandalore arc, the last arc of Clone Wars, also had a crawl.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I'm not the Clone Wars guy. So but no, I thought it worked. I thought it was good. And it is kind of like Dave Filoni's kind of personal touch. And I think at this point, he has had so much of an impact on Star Wars that there is some of these things that he's referencing himself. Yeah. In a sense, in a way of like trying to make his brand and his mark on it. And I think it's working.
Yeah. So we go from there to this scene where
we see Ahsoka for the first time in the show.
Ahsoka, which is cool. Ahsoka does her lightsaber spinny thing. She's at this old temple. She gets a map that's, it's a map that leads to Thrawn.
So this is where I started getting very frustrated with the show, because this whole scene, it wasn't intriguing. There was no real suspense. There isn't the David Fincher rule of like, I think it might be Hitchcock actually.
Hitchcock with the gun under the table?
Yeah, put a bomb under the table. And keep people suspended. I'm like, I don't care about what's happening. I've got no context of what's happening, and it's taking a long fucking time. So I was getting really frustrated, and there's a couple moments, especially in the first episode, where we really linger too long on certain shots, but that's fine. The map, I wasn't sold on immediately, because I'm like, what is this fucking MacGuffin map in the middle of nowhere?
And it's a ball too, and I turn to you and I start singing Come and Get Your Love by Redbone from Guardians of the Galaxy. So they get a map that allegedly leads to Thrawn and Ezra.
Yes, and I'm like, why? But I gotta give the show, I gotta give it more time to kind of sell me on it, because it comes back to that in episode 2, of course. Yeah,
so Ahsoka gets away, some droids chase it down, they initiate self-destruct, and then it's like, this fucking small atomic bomb scale.
So my question is,
off.
the first thing I was thinking was IG-88 or IG-11, which one's in Mando? Because
11.
He's gonna self-destruct. Yep. Was it anywhere near that level of self-destruction?
Nah.
Because that's nuts. Yeah. They took out a whole city area with like some kind of napalm bomb.
I mean, in the timeline, this is after. So let's just say that they made a fuck ton of advancements.
I guess.
In the last few years.
I guess so. It was pretty wild. It seemed to me just to exist solely so that Ahsoka would have to jump on the ship, which was cool. And then we meet. I actually don't know his name.
I don't remember his name either.
But David Tennant's droid character,
the lightsaber droid,
simply fantastic. Yeah. I think he's my favorite character so far. Maybe apart from Sabine. Sabine's really good in this.
He's from a really an arc in, I think, season 5 of Clone Wars that people are like, because it has a lot of Padawans.
You guys have been trying to get me to watch this specific episode for a while. Is the lightsaber building episode.
It is really cool.
So his role as this kind of, he's a really great foil to Ahsoka, where he is this embodiment of the old Jedi Order, and he wants to continue this tradition, even though he's a droid. He doesn't have like consciousness or anything, or I guess he's consciousness, but he's not sentient.
No. Exactly.
But he still has this coding, and it's driving him to tell Ahsoka, you must be a master and you must take an apprentice.
Yeah.
And he's so sassy about it that it just makes for really, really fun character moments. I'm a really big fan of it.
For a quick sec.
Go for it.
Do you reckon, so like his programming, do you reckon the file, like, when you upload his programming, do you reckon it's literally just called the Jedi Code?
Fuck you. That's really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got this scene with Ahsoka, and we're starting to get her character. I'm getting frustrated again because it's just so long. Every time there's dialogue, it's not. I made the joke to Melo. I'm like, man, like I wish we had George Lucas still because we have no faster or intensity anymore. There's no one around to just yell at.
Faster, more energy.
Yeah, exactly. There's no one around to yell at anymore. But so we keep moving, and then we meet Sabine. We're introduced to Sabine in her introduction.
Oh, we get to see Hera and Ahsoka. That's
we
see
their interaction as well.
Yeah. But yes, Sabine. We get to Sabine on Lothal in live action.
Lothal in live action is pretty fucking cool.
Oh, it's great. So it's crazy, Bryce, because over the course of Rebels, you see Lothal from the start, and then it turns into this. When the more that the Imperials take it over.
Yeah, I remember I saw bits and pieces of that.
Yeah, there's this hellscape nightmare place. And then by the end of it, in like the the closing sort of montage shots of season 4, it's like, oh, it's beautiful. And that's where we pick up.
Yeah, no, very cool. And it reminds us of like Bespin and shots of Alderaan and stuff like that. It's like very futuristic, like the utopian society that they kind of want to build with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like that's what we're trying to head towards, and Lothal kind of is embodying that in a bit. It's really cool.
We come to this anniversary of the date in which Ezra sacrificed himself to free them from the Empire. And Sabine's meant to be there, and she takes off.
Yeah.
Now, Russ, the scene that her taking off on this highway on her speeder is literally a scene from episode 1 of Rebels.
Yeah, no, it seemed very familiar to me, and I've always thought, why the fuck is this highway so long? It's so silly.
It's funny because it leads just to a cell tower and then to the grass plains beyond.
It's just one road that leads into nothing. I've always thought it's very weird, but it's a cool visual. Like, I enjoy the visual. It's cool.
It's like the city planners like, we need this, and they're like, okay, hey, we've run out of money. We only got so far.
It's just gonna be one road that goes to the entirety of the planet. Anyway.
So
it's fun. You get this introduction with Sabine. It was a bit silly. It was a bit like animated TV for me, but it was cool, and it showed off her punk rock kind of style, which is the same thing from the show.
Yeah. But then also Legends fans died. They just absolutely melted into their chairs because the E-Wing starfighter has now been canonized in the show.
Anyway.
Yeah. But, for those of you who care about that, good for you. Hope you had fun.
No, you had fun.
I had fun.
Yeah, you was you.
But I'm not as hardcore as they are. They know who they are.
God damn it. Yeah. Okay, so, and we're getting this, like, we're building up a character. We spend a long time with her. She goes back to Ezra's, little hut that he had lived in, the cell tower.
Yeah.
And he plays the recording of him just before he died. And we see just, the tiny version of him from live action.
Yeah.
We're going to run out of time. We can't go beat for beat for this show.
No, I know.
We're getting a lot of introduction, and this is to the point where I was getting at earlier. I was like, this is a lot of context for people who haven't seen any Rebels and are just casual Star Wars fans, and they're like, oh, what's this live-action Star Wars show about? Oh, I know Ahsoka from Mando.
Yeah.
What the fuck is all of this?
Yeah.
Like, this is a lot
so
right now.
They're really trying to catch people up. There is a bit of, like, in conversation, it feels a little bit too expositional. There's very much times where it's like, Ahsoka will go to talk to Sabine or go to talk to Hera, and it's like, I know you're talking to me, the audience.
Yeah, you got to catch people up on 4 seasons worth of TV and character dynamics, and they had a lot of experiences with each other.
But then also what they're catching up for everyone, this is for old and new audiences alike, is the fact that Sabine was Ahsoka's apprentice.
Yes, which happened all off camera, and I'm fairly certain, already one of our mates who's not a fan of that decision, I think. We haven't talked to him about it yet, but we're gonna. And I imagine that is going to be quite a controversial writing decision that they made.
So far, the most controversial thing I think this show has done for old fans of Rebels.
Pretty wild.
So, yeah, do we delve into that for a sec or keep going?
We'll keep going because they touch on it more in episode 2, and I think we can close our thoughts on it. But cool.
So they end with Sabine steals the orb.
Yes.
The orb map thing, like cracks the code on it. So like, so Ahsoka
which is another fucking scene. I was like, this is way too long and not compelling.
Yes.
Anyway.
Sorry. So we have to say why that actually happened. Ahsoka went back, like Hera said, go to Sabine. Sabine is actually like kind of a genius in Rebels when it comes to that sort of.
I remember she was like a hacker. I didn't know she was like a full on virtuoso.
Yeah. Like her sort of like education when it comes to the arts and culture and history.
Yeah.
Is to the point where she can decipher.
She's kind of a genius.
Yeah, pretty much all that old stuff. And then also like she built tech for the Empire that they helped to destroy Mandalore. You know, there's a whole plot there, and she has
That's
to overcome
I vaguely
her past
remember that.
mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so they go to Sabine and they say, "Here's this map. You know, there's tension between her and Ahsoka. It takes way too long. Let's move away."
Yeah.
She takes the little puzzle sphere
Yeah.
and deciphers it. And then, of course, they send this mysterious ex-Jedi mercenary figure and his apprentice is sent there to take her out, basically.
Yeah.
And we get that fight scene. Very fun fight scene with these these assassin droids. I'm really digging their design. They're very cool. Very, very good practical stuff. It reminds me of the droids from Boston Dynamics.
Oh, yeah.
So cool.
Nice.
I think that's probably a design inspiration for them anyway. But yeah, and then, you know, we've got Ahsoka trying to save Sabine. Sabine's fighting off this apprentice, and then she gets stabbed in the gut and dies. And that's the end of her character.
Yes.
Because that's what took out Qui-Gon.
Yeah. She gets stabbed in the torso.
Yeah.
And no one's ever survived.
And no one's ever survived it except the Grand Inquisitor and Kenobi, and then now also Sabine Wren.
And Reva.
And
do you remember Obi-Wan?
And
the
also
Obi-Wan show
fucking
did it
Reva.
twice. Of all the reasons, there's many reasons I hate that show. And that's two of them.
Look,
so,
I don't think it's the most silly thing. I just think they just keep doing it, and it's so weird. But anyway.
Okay, so episode 2, she survives. What it implies, though, to us at this point, with how many times that they've done it, is that the technology just didn't exist.
I made the joke. It was the Jedi
When
Foundation for lightsaber wounds was started after Qui-Gon died, and now it's just a universal kind of medicine everyone has.
Yeah. Do you reckon Bill Gates still runs that even in this universe?
Yeah.
It's a charity organization. You know?
We've got such little time. We've got to try and crank through it. So that's episode 1. My biggest criticism is just the pacing of each scene. The dialogue has no energy and no drive. There's nothing compelling it. It's an hour long. It could have been 45 if you just cut the dialogue a bit shorter. Good Lord.
I mean, theory with that, it's like every slow scene gives your brain a chance to catch up on how much if you're a new person coming into this fresh, just got dumped on you in the previous scene.
I guess so.
You know?
I guess so. I don't know. I don't really see it. I just felt very bored a lot. But maybe that's true because I was pretty much across most of everything that was happening.
Yeah. So I didn't mind it as much as you. Let's give it a score and move on.
Sure thing. I like doing out of 5s, so I'm going to give this one a solid 3 out of 5.
Cool. I like giving out of 10s, so I'll give it a 6.5.
See, that's the worst thing I've ever heard because that's out of 20. You monster.
What? Yeah, I know, technically.
That's the worst thing I've ever heard.
6 point. Well, actually, technically, it's out of 100. I give it a 65 out of 100.
Okay. So.
Let's go bigger. No.
Absolutely not. So it was a good episode.
Yeah.
Those are my major criticisms, but I think visual direction is fantastic. It looks so good. The CGI and the practical really works. The music really works. I think all the technical stuff is really working for me. The contacts are still weird and are never going to be not weird
Hera?
with Hera and also with Ahsoka.
I think it was brave, and I'm glad they went for it.
I think I'm glad they went for it as well. They've been trying to stick the landing on these practical, animated characters being brought into live action. And I thought Hera really worked.
How much time have we got? Can I make a joke?
You can make a joke.
Yeah. Do you reckon that when they were performing these scenes, right, they had to speak really loudly because both of their ears are covered?
I mean, probably. Yeah. And it kind of worked in episode 2 because they're on a cart and they're in a loud factory and they're kind of yelling at each other a bit.
What? The Jedi? There we go.
It was good.
Episode 2.
Episode 2, I enjoyed significantly more. So we start basically, I think, with Sabine. And
recovering,
or maybe before that, the evil characters are like, "Oh, my evil scheme."
Yes,
they fly onto that planet with the red trees and stuff,
trees,
and we see the Stonehenge kind of looking thing, which comes up later, and I think is very cool.
It is cool, yeah.
And Sabine and Ahsoka, they're arguing. They hack into the droid and they get the information about Corellia, where the droid was before. And
so there was a droid that she fought, and they were like, "Oh, do we have anything about the map?" And he memorized it. So it leads us to Corellia.
And that takes us to Corellia. And then we get to see the Phantom, which I'm not super familiar with. I know the Ghost from Rebels, but not the Phantom.
The Ghost is the big ship.
Yes.
And the Ghost always had the Phantom, the little,
ship
that they could go run side missions with.
Yeah, exactly. And Chopper is sitting in that. We see Chopper for the first time, which is fantastic.
Nice to see him. First time since Rogue One.
And so we get this plot arc with Hera and Ahsoka, and they're investigating this Corellian scrapyard.
Yeah.
And we get this really, really fantastic exposition. It's a little bit on the nose.
Oh, very much.
And obviously, I think my biggest issue is that Hera would already know this. She would already know this information. So it was getting exposited to her, but it was really to us, the audience. But the actual information itself is very good. It's like, how many of these people working here are actually Imperials or ex-Imperials?
No. Look, they're loyal to the dollar.
Yeah, they're loyal to the dollar. But it's all of them are ex-Imperials. Of course they are. All of them were. Every worker was, because the Empire had everything. So we can't just get new people because there isn't any new people.
Yeah.
There is no one who isn't ex-Imperial who can work in these scrapyards.
And it's funny because it's like Hera at one point says, when was the last time, surely, or someone's talking about, surely this was, people checking on this, people are monitoring this. maybe, I don't know. You know, like
I thought it was really good.
A little bit of incompetence there.
And you can definitely see, shades of what was discussed in Mandalorian season 3. That was my least favorite episode of season 3, was when they were on Coruscant with the Doctor.
Oh, right, yeah. But still,
and they were Operation Paperclipping these people into society.
Yep.
Similar thing here, but just more in the industrial kind of, manual labor kind of area.
Yeah, so we get to see that on Corellia, which used to build Star Destroyers, that they're repurposing it.
And we both popped for it because they're like, oh yeah, Solo.
Yeah,
like
because in the background there's
like
there's the frame of a Star Destroyer.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it was very cool. Yeah. But yeah. So, and we get that scene, and they're very sus about it. What else is happening in the other, like the B story? The villains. The villains are like plotting. That's it.
They'd be plotting.
No,
and Sabine and the droid.
They're having
he's
their
basically
kind of
goading her into, so the basically, for the audience, as we find out more in episode 2, Ahsoka quit on Sabine because they just didn't gel. They're both very stubborn
similar.
people. Yeah.
They're similar in a way that it's like two negatives.
Yeah.
And they butt up against each other, and it just doesn't. It's not working. There's too much friction there. Yeah. And I think that's a really interesting character dynamic to dive into. And I believe it just seeing them on screen.
Yep.
There's a lot of really good character work, especially done in episode 2, when you're getting more of Sabine and her snarkiness and how how stubborn and confident she is, which is so much shades of Ahsoka in Clone Wars, or everything I've seen and heard of Ahsoka from that show. Very much similarities there in their characters. And it's interesting seeing Ahsoka because she's supposed to be a Jedi Master. She's supposed to be wise, but she's still so stubborn.
Yeah. Well, she's supposed to be, a Jedi Master-ish, more like a Grey Jedi, because she still rejected it. Even the last time we saw her with Luke in Book of Boba Fett, she's still not really.
To me, it seems she's a character who believes that she has learned everything she needs to know. She has all the wisdom that she believes that she needs to go about her life in the galaxy.
She's like, if Qui-Gon had still wanted to be a Jedi outside of the Order, had he survived, would have been like that. Quick thing we skipped over, Balin. We find out in episode 1 that Balin was a Jedi in the time of the Republic. That's
and that's where his lightsaber comes from, because our friendly David Tennant droid investigated his lightsaber hilt. God, I love him. Yeah. And it is Sabine and he who are arguing and bickering back and forth. They have this really great exchange looking out into the skyline of the Thal city. Yeah. And he's definitely goading her, as you said, into trying to go back to training with Ahsoka. And it's a very great dynamic, and that's like probably my favorite part of the episode, and that's really working for me.
That's good. And then back on Corellia, so they go investigate what things are going on, and they're up in like this, this sort of like
control
supervisors, overlooking thing, and be like, that's a Super Star Destroyer hyperdrive unit. Cool.
What do you need that for?
Nothing's been commissioned to repurpose that for. And he's like, oh, it's classified.
That's classified.
I'm a fucking general.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's classified to a general. Yeah, but I'm a general.
Very, very, very fun. And I didn't actually think it would go this direction, but they really paid off that earlier scene of like, aren't these all ex-Imperials? Yeah, but they love the money. No, there's some straight up, like, there's some people who still believe in the Empire.
And so they kill them all.
And so they murk them, as you should.
Yeah, fuck you, Imperials.
Really great action scene, and then Ahsoka pulls out a double-bladed lightsaber and fucking destroys
Bursts out the window.
So fucking awesome. And she jumps down, and then we get the Inquisitor in this wicked knight armor.
Oh, there was an Inquisitor, by the way. We've never, up until this point, but there's an Inquisitor in the show. Yeah.
This is kind of how the show did it anyway, just threw him in there.
Yeah.
And so the ship is taking off, and Hera is chasing the ship, and he's trying to get a tracker on it with Chopper, and then we get the other action piece with Ahsoka fighting.
Dude, that is the whole bit with like them flying after the ship, and Chopper's searching through his toolbox, just trying to find the fucking track. That is so Rebels.
It's fantastic.
Like, that's great.
And there's a reason those characters were so popular and so beloved. It just really works, and they translated it really well to screen, and I'm very impressed with that sequence. And then the Ahsoka fight sequence. It's just really fun.
It is.
It's not like the most impressive choreography I've ever seen, but it is fun and engaging, and it kept me in the moment. I didn't fall out of it. There's some scenes in Mando and Boba Fett where I'm like, this action sucks.
But from the last time that we saw Rosario Dawson fight with all of her, costume makeup and stuff as Ahsoka, I think it's much better.
Yes, they've definitely improved. I think they've figured out some better ways to get around that.
And also I think
handicap.
Yeah, the Leku, her head tails look better this time too.
Yeah, I think they look great. I never really had a problem with it originally, but I think they're looking really good. Yeah. So I really enjoyed this kind of I really enjoyed that they released episode 1 and 2 together. Usually it's a smart decision, and here it was also a very smart decision. You get part 1 of the story and part 2, and because there is so much context, I think it really was important that they did that.
And what it really rounds out here, and this is part of the reason why they did it, is it's the character story with getting, our master and our apprentice, getting Ahsoka and Sabine back together.
Yeah.
That's where we leave off at the end of that episode, episode 2.
Now, we've got a couple minutes at the end of the show. Overall, I really enjoyed episode 2. I thought it was much better directed, a lot quicker with the pacing and like the dialogue and those character moments. It's just episode 1, but better in terms of directing style.
Yeah.
And all those technical elements are still coming home strong for me. I'm very much enjoying it. This one's a solid 4, I think, for me, if we're going to rank them.
4 out of 5. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm closer to, like an 8 out of 5.
And this, we end on as well, or somewhere in the episode, they have this big dome and they see this galactic map points off into another galaxy.
Yes.
Which,
so, yeah, we go back to
me,
the red tree planet.
Screams of, like, Thrawn's story in the extended universe, which is Heir to the Empire you talk about. Yeah. And I know there's this thing called the Yuzang Vong. It's like a race of aliens from another galaxy.
But their whole thing is they come into the Star Wars galaxy from another galaxy to attack. So
and it's interesting how Dave is trying to tie those. It seems like he's trying to tie those concepts together in a way. So it's really interesting.
A little bit. Like, it's very hard to try and, they brought back Thrawn already in Rebels, but to say that then we're going to bring back Thrawn in the time post Return of the Jedi, it's really hard to look at your audience, your loyal fans of 30 plus years of this character existing, and to say to them, we're going to ignore everything. Because they're not going to ignore everything.
It's tricky trying to adapt so much of this, like, extensive amounts of world building into live action and do it in a way that satisfies longtime fans and new fans as well.
Yeah.
I feel like the direction the show has taken at the start has given me a lot of promise for how it's going to tie together, especially the choice to make Sabine a Jedi Padawan and have Ahsoka train her. It is contentious, and it is weird for it to come out of nowhere, but I don't know how else you could have had Ahsoka have a story without forcing her to change through training someone else.
I'm glad we left off this till the end, because I don't want to talk about it too much. As a Rebels fan, to see this is like, okay, I can see in the context of this show why they've done it.
Yeah.
It's kind of the easy answer. Fair enough. I don't really like that they've now made her a Jedi, but it is what it is. I'm just going to move forward. The show's going to move forward. So
yeah, I'm being less attached to Rebels. I'm definitely more in support of that decision because it's how would you challenge Ahsoka? How would you have her own story without having the contrast of another person's story?
Yeah, and what people are going to then say is just like they can just go on a mission together, but it's like this. Like, as we said, this first 2 episodes is telling their character story and their whole backstory to then being like, let's fuse them back together.
To really set it up for the rest of the show.
And, that's what's going to drive it. So
it is going to be the driving force of the show, like their character story and their interactions and the tension between the two of them.
And if they just get along, I'm sorry, that's boring. That's the whole thing in writing. You never let your characters.
Nah, they got to be conflict somewhere.
Enjoy life, Yeah.
But I thought so much of what this show is doing is really working for me. I'm really enjoying it so far. I don't know any other final thoughts. You got anything else you want to chat?
No,
about?
Just that, like, from these first 2 episodes, I'm really optimistic for where this is going to go.
I came in very hard in before we started watching the show. I was like, I am not keen for this at all. I hadn't enjoyed any of the promotional stuff they'd put up. I thought, and then after having Mando season 3 come out, I was very down on Star Wars properties as a whole. Outside of anything like Andor.
The absolute fucking outlier.
So that was where I was coming to the show from, and I'm very happy to say that I've been turned around on it. And I'm very excited for next week's episode on Wednesday, where you will catch the two of us here talking more Ahsoka, because we're going to be doing this every week. This has been our first episode, our first live recorded kind of thing we've done on this channel, so I hope you've enjoyed it if you've been watching, if you've been listening. But yeah, until next week, this has been Fixing the Sequel Trilogy, and may the Force be with you.